Daniella Luxembourg way of looking at art is intellectual, but you don't need to be an intellectual to look at the work of art that she collected. There is always this desire of create beauty. All these artists, in one way or another, use material, use politics, use the social context, but never forget about the needs of beauty inside a work of art.
I'm delighted to introduce Spazio, the collection of Daniella Luxembourg, which really examines the incredible exploration around the painterly space and sculptural space that was in the transatlantic dialogue of artists between mid-century Italy and in America. Daniella Luxembourg is arguably one of the most innovative and far-sighted collectors, dealers, advisors, tastemakers that we have experienced in the art market really in the last 50 years.
One characteristic of the Daniella Luxembourg collection is that they go against the conventional idea of the representation. They create a different dimension, even if they are painting.
The title Spazio, the space of thought, is really critically relevant because in 1967, the great Italian critic Germano Celine, who actually first coined the term Arte Povera, curated a show Spazio in Genoa, which included many of the artists in the collection, such as Pascali and Luciano Fabbro.
Arte Povera is one of the movement of post-war Italian art, the most famous, the most internationally renowned.
Arte Povera, poor art, came more out of political movements of the 60s.
Many of the core artists who were working in such diverse materials as biro or rock or earth or glass, metal, cheap materials, but very specifically non-artistic materials. So they were really questioning the role of the artist and high fine art and presenting something completely different.
It was like, oh, pop art is rich for Americans and the razzle-dazzle, and we are making poor art. And so they share a certain sense of the informality of materials of the previous generation, but they took it to a much more specific anti-Americanism. The boom that occurred in the United States in the 50s was not happening in Italy. Italy was kind of an island unto itself. And I think for the Italians, they wanted to do something that finally ended the Renaissance at one point perspective. Fontana, Burri, Scarpitta is in a way the first half of this. The next generation with Fabbro, with Pistoletto, they really represent a generation that emerges in the early 60s.
I think it's no accident that actually Daniella's collection, by number, contains more Fontana works than by any other artist that we will be selling in the auction.
Fontana was a genius. He started with real delicacy and just taking dozens and dozens of pencil holes, not so much destroying the picture, but rupturing it like skin in reverse.
For him, the surface is an obstacle, and his job is to overcome this obstacle and create another dimension.
I think ultimately the consummate work in the collection is this Fine di Dio painting. It's one of only 38 paintings that were created as part of this series, The End of God. This is one of the very earliest ones, but already the archetype of the painting is starting to take shape with its sort of very specific rips in the hands which have attacked the canvas and exploited the space beneath. The underlying surface is actually painted in neon pink, but it's only with the addition of this sort of bronze-coloured glitter which litters the surface, which of course gives it another elevation.
It's the title, Fine di Dio. It's also this kind of ambiguous title, because on one hand, he talks about the end of God, and in the post-war Italian is clearly referring to the atheism, but also the end of God in the sense that God becomes cosmic. All around us is God.
You get this implication of the end of time, the end of religion, and of course this dates very specifically to the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin's first spatial explorations.
It talks about space and is a fantastic dialogue, almost discussion with Alberto Burri, because Alberto Burri speaks about matter. The Creto of Burri is about natural material.
Dominating in scale is the remarkable Alberto Burri Creto painting, the large black painting from 1970. And this really comes, I think, as an apex point of the artist's career. This is a 2.50 m plus wide picture. There are very few of these that Burri ever made.
Burri's fascinating because he is deeply and profoundly affected by World War II. He's a field doctor, stitching up people in the field under the most extraordinary circumstances.
This is a work actually which was painted in white using Celotex in black to cover the surface as well. And it's broken up into 6 very legible compartments where the artist has literally scraped through the painted material to kind of create these different areas, but upon which this natural cracking has occurred, which feels earth-like.
You can see both the origin of his practice, being a doctor. There is constant attempt in Burri's work to look at the wounds of the material and to try to repair them.
Wrap the wound, as Scarpitta would say about his paintings, that he was bandaging art and he wanted it to, in a sense, heal these open wounds.
The work of Salvatore Scarpitta is very interesting. It's creating a structure from raw material. Its canvases are constructed in a way you construct a sled. For Scarpitta, creating a work of art is a matter of survival. For Alberto Burri, is a matter of understanding the world, and for Lucio Fontana, is a way of understanding the universe. Daniella Luxembourg, it's a collector with the eye of a curator. So there is a weaving of ideas, even if Calder and Oldenburg come from completely different contexts that Pistoletto, Fabro, Fontana or Burri, they found some point of contact.
When it comes to Alexander Calder, you've got an artist who ultimately wanted to revolutionize sculpture. Armada of 1946 is really, really important. This is a year just after the war, of course, when actually Calder was able to resume using sheet metal. We have 5 rows of the Armada, rows of ship-like looking pieces of sheet metal with a density which allows the kinetic component of the sculpture to really work in unison. The rhythm of these pieces as they line up together in this rather orderly fashion is completely hypnotic, as is their very kind of unified black coloring. But at the same time, the chance component of the human interaction and the kinetic movement through air passing between these components is extraordinarily sophisticated. Daniella is a fearless tastemaker. She is someone who is not afraid to pay record prices for works, both privately and also significantly at auction. And one thinks, of course, of the Pistoletto work and the Pascali work, both of which were record-breaking prices at the time.
Daniella Luxembourg's vision is based on constant exchange, constant dialogue to different fields like literature or philosophy. I think that art by itself is beautiful, but if it's not informed by other fields and if it's not connected with reality, it loses something.